to The Book of Life, a show about Jewish books, music, film, and web. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. Additional support comes from the Association of Jewish Libraries. The Jewish Comix Anthology, Volume 1, is an exciting new project being published through a Kickstarter campaign by Alternate History Comics in Toronto, Canada. The anthology is edited by Steven M. Bergson, who's a research administrator at UJA Federation of Greater Toronto, past president of the Association of Jewish Libraries Ontario chapter, a seasoned blogger, and an expert on the representation of Jews in comic books, comic strips, and graphic novels. I spoke to Steven by Skype to learn more about the anthology and about how people can contribute to the Kickstarter to make this dream a reality. Visit bookoflifepodcast.com for a link to the Jewish Comix Anthology page at kickstarter.com. Steven, first of all, what is the Jewish Comix Anthology? Describe it for us.
It's going to be a collection of stories in comics form. Mostly they're going to be adaptations from Jewish folklore, from Agadah, from songs. A good portion of it is reprints that have appeared in comics from the 40s, the 60s, the 70s, and then we've supplemented that with new comics material that we're going to contemporary artists to produce new stories, new adaptations.
Are you choosing what material they should adapt, or are they choosing it for themselves?
For the most part, I'm choosing it. Sometimes I get requests, something that has a positive female role model, something that's in the range of the supernatural. One person asked for a story about sin and redemption, so there's requests for certain types of stories, but if they don't have the stories themselves, I have to go out to something like the Nathan Osabel's Treasury of Jewish Folklore. We leave the artist free to reinterpret the story, adapt it to modern times, adapt it to a different setting, things like that.
As you mentioned, many of the comics included in the anthology are based on old Jewish folktales or even songs.
The song which the anthology, we believe, will be ending with is by a Canadian songwriter called My Zadie. The last lines of that song are, who will be the Zadie for my children? Who will be their Zadie if not me? Who will be the Zadies for our children? Who will be their Zadies if not we? And for me, those lines from all the stories and from that song itself kind of sums up for me what the anthology is about for the artists working on the book, for the people who wrote the stories in the first place, and for the publisher and myself as the editor. Whether you're Jewish or not, whether you're a parent or not, if you take it upon yourself the responsibility of bringing the history, culture, and values of the Jewish people to the next generation, you have to consider how are you going to do it. And different people will do it in different ways. Some will do it by putting their kids through Hebrew school, some will do it through synagogue programs, through film, through songs. And for me, someone that has a love of comics that I also want to share, for me, this is the best way to pass it on to the next generation. To be the father and the Zadie for my children, the best way is to try to put out an anthology like this, which will keep the stories going. And will keep discussions of these stories going, even if the stories aren't exactly the way that the original storyteller intended.
I love that. With Kickstarter as the way to get the book funded, individuals from all over the world can lend their support. Have you found supporters in any unexpected places?
A lot of them are from Canada and the US, but some of the people supporting us are coming from Singapore, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, India, Switzerland, to see the different places.
Yeah. Now explain a little bit about how Kickstarter works in case some of the listeners don't know.
You can pledge any amount from $1 up to thousands of dollars, depending on what level of how much you're supporting us. There are different rewards. For $30 or $40, one of the rewards is the hardcover book itself. A smaller reward, and so you can get the digital copy, which unfortunately, because of the way that we got the reprint rights, those getting the digital copy will only get the news stories, but it's still an amazing thing to have. And if we get enough people pledging enough support, at the 50,000 mark, we will be able to pay the artists, send the money to the printer, and just send the copies out to the people that have pledged enough to get a copy, and with whatever's left over, we'll print copies to sell on the market.
What is the deadline for people to contribute to the Kickstarter?
Officially, the deadline is March 5th, but it's something like March 5th at 9 a.m., so really the best thing is to do it by March 4th.
Okay. In addition to getting copies of the book, whether print or digital, what are some of the other rewards that you're offering to people who contribute?
We have original artwork from Michael Netzer, from Josh Edelglass. At the $1,000 level, someone can get a copy of the book signed by Art Spiegelman, the winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Mouse. There are reward levels where people can get bookmarks, postcards. At the highest reward level, somebody can be named as a producer. Besides getting a credit in the book, if the book is nominated for any awards, their name will be alongside ours as a credit for the book.
Cool. So if listeners want to pre-order a copy of the Jewish Comix Anthology, do they do so by contributing to the Kickstarter?
That's the way to do it now, yes. After the campaign is over, they'll have to pre-order it the same way as any other book. They go to some site like Amazon.com and wait for the listing.
Okay. I have one other question. There's been a lot of talk about women being ignored by the comics industry. Have you made any particular efforts to be inclusive of women, both in terms of the creators of the comics or of the contents of the comics?
We've tried. With Jewish folklore, it can be kind of challenging because a lot of the more positive roles for women happened in more recent generations. But there are times when you can change the gender of the characters in the story. That's certainly allowed. A story like Something from Nothing, which won't be in Volume 1, but I'm hoping to have in Volume 2, it's as simple as changing the grandfather and the grandson to a grandmother and granddaughter. It's still essentially the same story, it's just you get a different feel. And for me, that makes the story even more interesting because instead of it being a Jewish tailor, it can be a booby who's a Jewish dressmaker, which would be closer to my actual booby, who just turned 100 recently.
Wow, wonderful. And in terms of the creators of the comics, do you have many women included in that list?
There are women that are included in the list, both the contemporary and the ones we're reprinting from. There's a collaboration of an adaptation of the song Zog Nit Kein Mol, the Yiddish partisan song. The adaptation is a collaboration between Trina Robbins and Sharon Rudall. And Trina Robbins, as an artist, was someone who contributed the cover story of the second issue of Lilith magazine way back.
Okay, great. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that I haven't thought to ask you?
The book itself, we don't think is suitable for children, but we're looking at more of a young adult audience, and probably not so much of an Orthodox audience as more progressive audience. There are some bits that might be a bit violent for the average crowd. I won't say there's any inappropriate material, but there is material of more adult nature, maybe.
Okay, thank you for the warning. That's good to know. Okay, well, Steven Bergson, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Heidi.
There are so many ways to connect with the Book of Life. Fan us at facebook.com/Book of Life Podcast. Follow us at twitter.com/Book of Life Pod. Email us at bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 561-206-2473. You can also listen to the latest episode by phone at 916-313-3820. And of course, find links to everything at bookoflifepodcast.com. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida at cbiboca.org and is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band at freilachmakers.com. Thanks for listening and happy reading.